Hello and welcome to Movie Mayhem here at Suspiria Works Cinema, where we continue our love affair with Bruno Mattei. Today's movie is Libido Mania. This is the last in his little series of Mondo sex films. This one was done in '79, and it's kind of a culmination of what the other ones were. Adapted from various sources, Sexualis Perverso, several books by Freud and Jung. They take different real sexual aberrations or perversions or whatever you want to call them, and the narrator who introduces us to the film, sitting in what looks to be something reminiscent of masterpiece theater, holding a book, and, you know, he just needs a smoking jacket. His character's kind of lame, but he introduces us to each little vignette that discusses a real type of sexual interest. And, I mean, this movie pretty much covers the gambit. You know, everything from necrophilia to foot fetish. There's really everything. One of the biggest complaints I'll have as a movie is why they get this guy. I mean, he's not famous or anything. He's some real Poindexter-looking guy in glasses holding his book in a suit, introducing each scene. Why not get Gimser back? I mean, since the other ones aren't available in any good quality, and this one is, and I'll talk about that at the end, I really would love to have seen Gimser in this one, not this clown. I mean, if you're going to have a sex thing, at least have somebody sexy talking about it. That's going to be my main complaint for this. You know, other than that, it plays pretty much like the other ones. You get a bucket of fast vignettes, and one thing important to note, too, is Mattei did, if I'm not mistaken, all of his own editing. That's on his early films. I'm not sure about some of the later stuff, but I know he did on the early films. He did all of his own editing. I mean, this is the old real cut days. And, you know, while he may be known as a sleazemeister and schlocky director, the man's fairly genius when it comes to editing. I mean, even on the other ones, no matter how crappy they were, you don't get a chance to get bored. He knows when to cut the scene, when to go to the next scene. And we're not talking about MTV cuts. He isn't doing this, you know, 1-2 cut, 1-2 cut nonsense. This is just well-paced cuts. The scenes cut when you logically think they should. And that's one thing I really got to give big props to Mattei for. He's extremely talented at his cutting. And, you know, these movies are also made up from a bunch of other junk they filmed. You know, they're going into the archives and stock footage for some of this. So he's taking something that he didn't even shoot and trying to cut it into a movie that he's putting his name on and make it still interesting and fit the flow of the movie. The movie starts off with the narrator. We get some foot fetish stuff, and then he jumps into a transsexual who also does prostitution, where either the transsexual does it for free or gets paid $50,000 to do something. I'm not really sure what sense that made. And, you know, it's fake. It's not even a... They couldn't find a real transsexual, but they didn't. So anyway, that's kind of entertaining. And not to, you know, bore you too quick, then we go right into some dick chopping. You know, typical Islander ritual where the guy's had he had sex with somebody else's wife, so he gets tied up and they beat him and then they chop his dick off. It's one of the best effects they had in these cheap old movies. You know, yeah, sure, in real life, if you don't cauterize it, you're going to bleed out really fast, but it's gruesome, it's nasty. If you happen to watch this with a girl, they always, for some disturbing reason, find those scenes funny. You know, so you get that right off the bat. They cut to a Asian brothel. The girl's wearing like a Asian-ish mask. I think they're supposed to be Japanese, where they reenact ancient sexual acts. And in this one, they're doing the duck flying upside down. I don't know what the point of it was, but it looked funny. It's entertaining. Again, now you're getting your TNA. I don't think the girl was even Asian, but who cares? It's not exactly a true documentary that's being watched at this point. Then they show some real footage of some kind of fertility ritual where the guy sticks those sharp-bladed grasses knotted up his nose and runs them in and out of there until his sinuses bleed, because apparently that gives you more staying power and better fertility possibilities. Whatever. The advantage is I can see all of this, so it's in good quality at least. I wouldn't want to miss any of that. In between each scene, we keep cutting back to Mr. Poindexter. And they rotate that into with some other footage of a psychiatrist, obviously not real in it, it's in a sound stage of some sort, but it looks like a psychiatrist's office, and they're interviewing the psychiatrist who's affirming the assumptions of what we're seeing in the video, having to do with the perversion of what kind. So you get mostly the Poindexter guy, and then on occasion we get this reaffirmation of how real what we're seeing actually is by the psychiatrist. The next segment goes into various types of fetishes, like a breast fetish, ass fetish, and then it goes into guys who want to hump statues or trees or other inanimate objects. There's a guy, then this part was actually real footage. It's got like animal hides wrapped around some bamboo structure, and he's just going to town on it. I'm not sure what that is supposed to be, but it's really funny. There's a segment about where a prostitute explains one of her clients wants her to be a statue. It's kind of funny just because of how much she complains narrating it about what a weirdo this guy is. So that's kind of cool. And I mean, again, these are all real things, and these are shotgunned. If I explained every single thing that actually happened in this movie, this review would be an hour long, because some of these segments are only 20-30 seconds at most. So you get a lot of stuff to check out here. Interestingly enough, they totally pirate the same scene from Sexy Night Report where the teacher's teaching the students about sex. We get that whole thing redone in here. Kind of shameless. I'm not sure why. Did they really need to pad the movie out? Possibly, I guess, but who knows? That whole scene is re-put back in here, so if you couldn't see it in Sexy Night Report, you get to see it here. It's not a bad scene. It's actually one of the better ones from that movie, and still useful in this. Then they go into some strange stuff with these almost artistic shots of these girls being chased down by dogs through the woods, and they're narrating like poems over it. It's a couple weird segments like that. Kind of neat for the artistic value. They're interesting, but I'm not sure how well they make sense. But again, I'm not sure how well any of this movie makes sense. They got some other oddities with a tribal thing where they explain the evil spirits need to be appeased by having the virginity of one of the young women from the tribe every month. Of course, the witch doctor is the one that gets possessed by the evil spirit to take her virginity. Now, you gotta ask yourself, in the hundreds of years this was probably occurring, not once did one of these guys say, "Hey, I think the witch doctor's full of shit. He's trying to bang our women." Yeah, I mean, this is stuff that really happened. Again, I'm amazed no one did that and just took him outside and shot him, or, well, beat him to death with a spear or club or whatever. There's some more fetishes where some guy likes to lick erupting wounds. Yeah. They do some necrophilia. Not that gruesome. They don't really show much. It's not like the previous movies we've seen. There's a bestiality one where shows the couple laying in bed and he's just not interested anymore. And the wife keeps talking to him, and finally he decides, well, this is what I want to see, and they bring in their sheepdog. So she makes it with the sheepdog. and that totally turns him on. You don't really see it. This is not like the other ones where there's real bestiality being filmed, but it's staged. But again, this is technically an educational movie. Yeah. The bestiality continues with the discussion of a woman who's become frigid. Now, she can only get off by watching horses. Now, this isn't where she doesn't actually have sex with a horse or even do anything with a horse. But we do get a really long scene of horse dick. Lots of it. And this turns her on completely. It's kind of a funny scene. If you want to see horses do it, it's great. Otherwise, it's just funny in general. Then we go to a Nudist Contest, and just the movie wraps up with that. See, that's the longest thing. It's all stock footage. You can tell Mattei took that from the archives and just slapped it on the end to give another 10 minutes of various people running around naked. There is, on this lovely edition of the movie, they also have the extra footage that was shot for the Italian release, because apparently in Germany you can show all this stuff, but in Italy they're totally against it, so it had to be censored so much that they had to add a whole bunch of footage. So it's about 25, 26 minutes of more native stuff, like the native tribal stuff, just tons and tons of that footage, which in this version, the actual full version of the movie, it's cut down in very quick cuts. I can imagine watching it in the Italian version, it might have paced really slow, and you're missing all of the interesting stuff, you know, like shitting on people. Oh, yes, and that's in here. It's fake, but it's still kind of nasty. So, I mean, that's it. That's Libido Mania. It's the last of Mattei's full-on Mondo sex films. So, I want to talk a little bit about this release. This is from Cinema Obscura. They do a lot of, well, not a lot of, they only do extremely rare movies. This is DVD, but it is region-free. I can't begin to describe the loving touch they've used with this. Got a nice slipcover here. There's a booklet in here which describes some stuff about the history of the sexual perversions. You've got tons of great bonuses on here. There's a segment with Claudio Fragasso doing an entire interview talking about working with Bruno Mattei. Claudio Fragasso was his most frequent second unit director, did a lot of pickup scenes. They would dual shoot movies all the time, and Fragasso on his own, you'll probably know him from being the director of Troll 2. But it's really interesting to watch him talk about Mattei, how they shot the films, the mentality behind it, a lot of Mattei's character, his techniques. It is all English subtitled. That is one good thing. The whole movie is English subtitled. There is commentary by the guys at Obscura that runs through the entire movie. They talk about, obviously, this movie, but they also talk about the Mondo genre in general. Again, extremely interesting. I wish there were more companies like them that would get a hold of these prints of these old films so you could enjoy them better. I mean, nowadays we're getting more of that, especially, you know, with your companies like Synapse, Shout Factory, Cinema Obscura, and a few others out there that are starting to do really, really good work. So, as the final entry into Bruno Mattei's Mondo sex film, I gotta give it a slightly lower rating than I would, strictly because of the host. It's some boring dude in a suit. Where's my pretty girl, you know? It's very well edited, though. So I'm gonna keep this one with a 6.5 out of 10. Definitely still entertaining. You can still have the drinking games and laugh a lot watching it. However, the video presentation on this, it is DVD. I mean, 10 out of 10. The video quality, yes, it probably could be better if they actually enhanced the film through like Final Cut Color or something, like what they did with Dr. No. but I doubt you're ever going to see a better print of this. So it looks about as good as you could ever expect on a DVD print of this movie. It's not Blu-ray, it is only DVD. But the extras alone, and in getting so many extras for such a obscure movie, mad props on that. So if you can, pick this up. It's a great entry into the Mattei filmography. And there you have it, Libido Mania. I hope you enjoyed the review of Libido Mania, the final entry into Bruno Mattei's Mondo 6 films. And I look forward to seeing you next time when we dive into his nunsploitation era. Always good stuff. So be sure to like the video, share it, and leave any comments. And we'll see you next time here at Movie Mayhem.